Okay, you guys ready? We will keep doing problems until you go, oh my gosh, Miss Rice, stop, we're ready to work on our own. Because as you can see from the packet, no L in that word. As you can see from the packet, we got plenty of problems, okay? All right, number one, a man flies a kite with a 100-foot string. The angle of elevation of the string is 52 degrees. So you can see that it did angle of elevation because it went straight out and up. How high off the ground is the kite? So they drew the picture perfectly for you and labeled it. And so we just have to do what? We have to see which trig ratio we want to use, right? So what are the names of the sides that they gave us? Opposite and hypotenuse, which is which trig ratio? Sine. So we're going to say sine of 52 degrees equals opposite over hypotenuse. And how do we solve for x? Multiply the 100 over. So I'm going to say x equals 100 times sine of 52 degrees. And I'm going to grab my calculator. And your calculators are probably in radian mode because when you clear it, that's what it defaults to. So we're going to go down and make sure we put it in degrees. And we're just going to type it in. So I'm going to hit 100 sine 52. Is it like type in calculator stuff?
No.
Oh yeah. What type of stuff do you learn about that has trig in it?
They don't learn anything. We really don't learn anything, but like forces. Like when you do like a force, you have to use the force of gravity and then the horizontal to make the vertical.
And so you use angles with that?
So you use
Oh.
there'll be like an angle. However elevated something is, and then you use the
Sure, so you're making yeah, triangles to interesting. All right, so we're going to say how high off the ground is the kite? The kite is 78.801 feet off the ground. So today, I am definitely a math and English teacher because we're writing sentences. See that? See that? And then I'm going to go ahead and say x squiggly equal sign. Do you guys remember what the squiggly equal sign means? Is about, yeah. So I'm telling the person who's looking at my paper that there was more decimals and I rounded it. Okay. Whew, wasn't that fun? This next one is even more fun because we have to draw it ourselves. So from the top of a vertical cliff, has anyone ever seen a horizontal cliff? I just think that's funny because that they specified. The angle of depression of an object that is level with the base of the cliff is 34 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and draw, here's my cliff. Does that remind you of last night? And this time it doesn't say the cliff is over water, so I'm going to put some grass down here. Do you guys like my grass? What type of object should we draw? A rock. Well, that's... How do you draw a rock? Like a lumpy circle?
a flower.
A rock with a flower on it. Okay, there's our object. And it says from the top of the cliff, and the cliff is 40 meters high, so I'm going to go ahead and label that 40 meters. We have an angle of depression. How do I draw an angle of depression? Yeah, straight out and down. So straight out and then down like this. Okay. That's okay. I'm going to pause the video really quick while I say that. All right. So there's our flower and our rock. Here's our triangle. So it said the angle of depression is 34 degrees. So here's our 34 degrees right here. Isn't that great? Oh, man. So 40 meters is the height right here. So when I label that on my triangle, I'm going to jump over here and I'm going to label this side as 40 meters. And then what is it we're actually trying to solve for? Yeah, so we're trying to find this distance, so this is the x right here, but if we label it in our triangle, that's going to be right up here. Okay. All right, so what are the two sides that we have? Opposite and adjacent, which is tan. Okay, so tan 34 degrees equals opposite, which is 40, over adjacent, which is x. So this is like one of the ones we did in the video where there's an x on the bottom. Do you guys remember how I did that one? Yeah, I put the tan 34 over 1, and then I cross multiply, right? So I get x tan 34 equals 40 times 1, which is just 40. And then how do I get the x all by itself? Divide the tan 34. So x equals 40 divided by tan 34. And as long as you didn't clear your calculator, like reset it, then you shouldn't have to adjust the, like to put it in degrees again. It should stay. So this is approximately 59.302 meters. And then I write my sentence. The object is okay. All right. Ready for the next one? So we have an airplane. It takes off in front of a 60-foot building. Oh yeah, that's the height of the building. At what angle of elevation must the plane take off in order to avoid crashing into the building? And then assume that the airplane flies in a straight line and the angle of elevation remains constant until the airplane flies over the building. That's really funny. Let's be real. Did I zoom in more instead of zoom out? That's awkward. Let me zoom out. Let's be real. An airplane would never cut it as close as we're about to answer this math problem. Okay. Because that would be the most terrifying thing. Can you imagine being in a plane and it just like barely hits the right angle of elevation to not hit the building? Or being in the building and just seeing a plane like coming straight towards it. Like that's gonna hit us. That's gonna hit us. Yeah. All right, so they drew the picture for us. What sides did they give us? Opposite and adjacent. So this time we're finding the angle. So this problem's a little bit different, but we still are going to use tangent because it's opposite and adjacent, right? So tan of the angle equals opposite, which is 60, over adjacent, which is 200. And so how do we get rid of the tan to solve for the x? Yes. I like that.
Have to convert so that feet and yards are the same?
Oh gosh, yes. That was a great question. You know what's funny is my answer key is probably wrong on that one because I don't know if I ever paid attention to that. How many yards, should we do yards or feet? What do you guys want to do? Feet?
You should do yards because it divides it.
Okay, we can do that. How many feet go into 1 yard? 3. So we should do 60 divided by 3. And that would be 20 yards. Goodness gracious. I don't know if I've ever noticed that before. Skylar, what would I do without you? Have the wrong answer, that's what. Gosh, I'd look at my answer key, but it's up on the wall and I don't feel like getting up. All right, how do I get rid of the tan? Anyone remember?
12, it's tan negative 1.
Yeah, tan negative 1, it's tan inverse. And that's and the way we can kind of remember that wording is because inverse operations undo each other. So to undo tan, you do tan undo, which is tan inverse. So we do tan inverse of the left side, tan inverse of the right side. That makes the tans cancel. And so in our calculator, we're going to type tan inverse of 20 divided by 200. And so to type that in, we hit second tan. 20 divided by 200. My whole world just came crashing down because I didn't convert the units on that problem. I'm so glad you were here to tell me that. All right, x is approximately 5.711 degrees. But goodness gracious, they better fly at like 30 degrees or something, not 5. Come on, let's be real.
Could you do that really short?
Huh? Convert the... They have to be, for you to be able to do this, they have to be at the same unit of measure, or else it doesn't quite make sense. So you do, we converted them at the right time to be able to do the problem. And that's because our final answer is in degrees, you know? So we need it to be in yards and yards or feet and feet to make it make sense. All right, so the angle of elevation of the plane I'm going to say should be more than, because they shouldn't use the bare minimum, because that'd be weird. Okay. These problems are very straightforward. I would argue these are not pre-calc problems because you have learned some of this stuff before with the same level of difficulty. So are you guys okay with us trying some more difficult ones? Okay, so we're going to flip the page and look at the next worksheet. Or what we could do is I could let you guys practice some of these on your own and then we could do more difficult ones. Would that be better? Okay, go ahead and practice some on your own and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so if we did some more, do we need to do any on the back side of the first page, 7 through 11?
Can you do 7?
We can do 7. All right, so a wire attached to the top of a pole reaches to a stake in the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and draw, like, this is a pole. And it reaches to a stake in the ground. Oh, it's frozen, sorry. You said that, that's what you just said. There we go. It reaches to a stake in the ground, 20 feet from the pole. Okay, so this is 20 feet. The wire is attached to the top of the pole. 58-degree angle with the ground. And we have to find the length of the wire. And so which sides are those? Hypotenuse and adjacent, yep. So this is the hypotenuse, this is the adjacent, so that means which trig function are we using? Which one are we going to use? Cosine. So we're going to say cos of 58 is adjacent over hypotenuse, and how do we solve that? Because the x is on the bottom. Any ideas?
You multiply by x and divide by cos of 50.
So when I did this in your notes, I had you guys put it over 1 so you could cross multiply. So we have x times cos 58 equals 20 times 1. So that's what Katie was talking about when she said you can multiply the x to the other side. And then to get the epsilon, we can divide by the cos 58. So we're going to say x is 20 over cos 58. And then it's ready to type into our calculators. So x is 37.742, and that is feet. All right, on the next page, what problem should we do? Do you guys like how pretty these pictures are? I found this worksheet and I was like, I gotta use those just because the pictures are so nice. There's no applause, but you know we're feeling it. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and do the first one. So the reason that these start to get more difficult is because they're dealing with more than one triangle, like two triangles, or you have more than one variable. They're just a little bit more than like your standard problem. So it says from an apartment window that's 24 meters above the ground, so this is the apartment window they're talking about, the angle of depression to the base of a nearby building is 38 degrees, and the angle of elevation to the top is 63. So which one's which? Yes, angle of depression is the one that's going down, that's the 38. And then the angle of elevation is the 63. So you can see we've got straight out and down, straight out and up. And they want us to find the height of the nearby building. Okay, so if that right there, thank you, if this right here is labeled as 24, then we can go ahead and go over to this triangle and label this side as 24. And so what we want to do is we want to use the first triangle to give us enough information that at some point we could get to the second triangle and solve for x right there. Yes? So what, if we're thinking about it, the first triangle, we know that this side is 24. We can either solve for the hypotenuse or we can solve for the adjacent. Which side would make more sense to solve for? Yeah, the adjacent side, because then that side is the same in the big triangle or the upper triangle, and then you can use that. So I'm going to go ahead and just call this A right there, since I called that X. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a picture of that little triangle that's underneath. 24, 38, A. And so we have the opposite side and the adjacent side. And so we're going to use tan. So tan 38 equals opposite over adjacent. And how are we going to solve for A? So we're going to put that over 1, right? And then we're going to cross multiply. So A tan 38 equals 24. And then how do I get the A all by itself? So A is 24 divided by tan 38. Have you guys ever stored numbers in your calculator before? Okay, so we have to use this number to complete the problem, and so I want to store the number so I'm not just writing down decimals and using a rounded answer. I want to save that number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to where it says STO, that's storing a number. Let me go ahead and zoom out real quick. So if you hit the STO button, then it's going to say my answer is going to go to, and it lets you choose the letter. And then I'm going to save it as A since I've called it A in the problem. So I'm going to hit alpha math. So what I'm doing right now is I'm telling my calculator to save this decimal as A. So if you press enter, now anytime we write alpha A in our calculator, it's going to use that exact decimal. And it doesn't round it when it uses it, it saves the work that we plugged in. So it's saving like the perfect decimal for us, not the rounded one, the actual one. Okay, and as soon as I store a number on my calculator, this is Miss Rice notation, this is not mathy. This is like something that I just do. I put the letter that I used with a circle around it so I can remember that's what I did. Okay. So now we have to go to the other triangle. So on the other triangle, we have 63 degrees. X is what we're solving for. We know that this side is a length of 30.719, which I stored in my calculator as A. So what do we do to solve the second triangle? Which trig ratio will work? Tan. So I'm going to do tan of 63 equals opposite over adjacent, which I used as A. And then what do I do to solve for X? I'm just going to take the number, right, and I'm going to multiply it over to the other side. So I'm going to do tan 63 multiplied by 30.719, which is the decimal that I stored as A. So I'll do tan 63 times A. Okay, so X is 60.289. So the original problem wanted to know the height of the whole building. When I found that X was 60.289, did I find the height of the whole building? No, I just found like that upper portion. So what do I need to do to find the height of the whole building? Is it A? Because A I called as the middle. So don't add A in that number, add 24 in that number. So 24 plus what we got for X. So I'm going to take this decimal and add 24 to it. So the height of the building is about 84.289 meters. And that's how the problems are on this page, where you might have to deal with more than one triangle to find something.